Check, check, mic. Oh, the mic works. Excellent. Good start. We're going to get going in about a minute. There's some chairs up front. I can be an usher in church. Sit in the front row. We won't hold it against you. There's plenty of room up front. We invited pretty much every elected official in Ramsey County to join us tonight to listen. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of them coming, so we had saved a few rows for elected officials, but they're not coming, so you can come and use these spots. So plenty of room up front. And if there are elected officials here, please join us. Join us in the front. We do have room in the front row. So if I'm missing anybody, city council, or county commissioner, or net council, we invite them all.
How do I walk through without breaking it on your video?
Oh, just a little low. Perfect.
But I'm just trying to move air for people.
Oh, great. Cool, thank you.
Room up front. This is about 10 chairs on this side, probably another 10 on that side. So if you want to sit down, there's lots of room up front.
Still a lot of people coming in, finding places to sit.
All right, it's 6:35, I think, on my clock. Actually, 36. So let's get started. We're going to start at 6:30. Good to start on time for those that showed on time, right? So if we can get my attention, can I have your attention, please? We can have the team come down a little bit so everybody can hear. Oh, thank you. So my name is Bill Walsh. I'm on the White Bear Lake City Council. I represent Ward 1. I'm happy to host this meeting tonight. I'm going to do some logistics, just some welcomes and logistics and things like that. And I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to give a 4-minute talk. We're going to let everybody speak tonight. We will stay until everyone's had their say. But we're going to do it in 4 minutes increments. I'm going to try to lead by example, and we'll have the timer, turn the timer on for me. Not yet, though, because I got to do some logistics. So I reserve the right to do some logistics before we get started. I'll do 4 minutes. And then Tim David is going to do a presentation that's about 15, 20 minutes maybe, just to give an overview of the project and where things stand. And then we're going to listen. And so we're going to listen to each other. We're going to listen to, we invited a lot of elected officials. I hope some come. But if not, nothing else, we are videotaping the event. It'll be on YouTube. Several have emailed me and asked me, hey, I can't come, but is it going to be videotaped so I can watch it? I said, yes. So we'll send it out, the link to all the elected officials so everybody has a chance to watch. But we will definitely be heard. The press is here. People will know about what we had to say today. So I want to thank Terry Kellerman for hosting tonight. Fantastic. So thanks, Terry. This is a beautiful space and a great thing we have in White Bear Lake. So do your next big event here, your wedding, and then stop down to the bar afterwards and have a drink. But it's a great place. We really thank Terry. I think bathrooms are, I think men's back here, right? And then women's this way. I got that right, okay? So that's logistics. Just try to be not very disruptive, but we might be here for a while, so feel free. Logistically, that's it, I think. We're videotaping the event, so we'll have it on YouTube later for others to watch. So you can start the timer now. I'll try to model 4-minute speech here. And I'm not going to do a pro and con on the rush line. I think a lot of people know where I stand. I think the project just doesn't fit White Bear Lake. And that's the message I've been trying to convince my colleagues in the city and around the county and everywhere else. It just doesn't fit our historic downtown. The best thing we have going for us is this little downtown, the lake, and it's our identity. You look at all the suburbs around the Twin Cities. They would die to have what we have. Just feel like the bus coming up every 10 minutes. We're going to see 89 buses a day. We'll put that in jeopardy. So that's my message there. I just want to talk about tonight, 4 minutes apiece. Everybody gets to speak. Let's be respectful. I always say that free speech is a great thing, and I'm never afraid of my message. I believe my message is better and the right message. And if you have that confidence in your message, you don't need to cheer, you don't need to jeer, you don't need to bother anybody, you don't need to boo. Because you've got to be confident in your message. So let's let everybody talk. I hope there are people here that support the project. I've been emailing a lot of them, and then I encourage them to come. We should hear a encouraging view tonight. But let's hear what you have to say. And be respectful of each other. Clapping's okay. And like I said, we'll stay until everybody gets a chance to speak. So everybody gets 4 minutes. We're going to start. So I didn't even take my 4, right? Good. We're going to start with Tim David of the No Rush Line Group to give an overview of the project, and it'll be just 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll just get to listening. And so I appreciate everybody coming. Well, let me just take 1 more minute. I lied. But the Rush Line BRT is a proposal right now at this stage. Just want people to understand. It is a proposal to the federal government for funding. And we haven't even applied yet. We being this, the Ramsey County's developed it, they've handed it over to Met Council. Met Council will apply to the federal government for funding. We will compete with all kinds of other projects, light rail projects, bus projects around the country. There's a lot of criteria that go into it, a lot of stuff in the reports you've seen about ridership and environmental things, and job creation, housing, all that's part of our score. And one of the things we hope, the hope is that there'll be human beings in a room deciding which projects to fund based on criteria. So our voice today, some of these votes we're going to take in city councils, is a message to those folks making that decision. Consider that there might not be complete unanimity of support for this project in Minnesota, in White Bear Lake especially. So that's the hope of the feedback. It's still a proposal. It's not a done deal. And I just wanted to say that there's nothing we can do about it. So we're here to listen tonight. Oh, there was my buzzer. We're here to listen, and there's hope to get somebody to listen to us. So I'll turn it over to Tim. My time is up.
Okay, thank you, Bill. This is a much larger group than we anticipated, but it shows how important this project is to all communities along the corridor. So we appreciate y'all coming out and looking at this presentation. This is our chance to talk about the other view. Ramsey County Met Council have done their road shows. They're not professional road show folks, so bear with us. But this is our story that we hear from a lot of folks throughout all the communities, literally thousands of folks in the community. So we're going to talk about who we are. We're the No Rush Line Coalition. We're going to talk about what is the Rush Line. We still encounter a lot of folks who say, I didn't realize what this was about. So we're going to try and clarify what it is about. And can everybody hear me in the back? You good? All right. Then we're going to talk about our concerns and voices of the communities. When I say communities, we're talking to folks all the way down the corridor, down to St. Paul. We're going to talk about alternatives and what we call our ask. This is our ask to those 11 folks that Bill was talking about. And we certainly had anticipated some of the folks to be here today. All right, let's go. Next slide, please. The arrow down, here we go. So we're a group of citizens from multiple communities who represent literally thousands of residents, business owners, landowners that we have talked with and listened to. So it's not just a small group of us. We are hearing from all you folks about what's important to you about this rush line and what's important in your communities. Next, we are not opposed to public transportation. We emphasize that. We want effective and efficient use of transportation dollars. We want the right fit for transit users and communities. We do not think this fits any of our communities at this point. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so here's what it is. Now we have 2 slides here. I only have 10 slides total. These 2 slides are intending to focus on the facts. I give Ramsey County credit for asking us to stay attached to facts. So these next 2 slides are the facts. I verified them with Ramsey County a number of times. They've confirmed that these are valid. So if you hear other folks talking about other things, this is what's happening. 89 buses every weekday in St. Paul to Waco and Lincoln. Now that's a big enough number the first time I heard that story. And one of the local general managers at a restaurant downtown Waco Lake told us when we met with the Main Street Business Group, said, it's not 89 buses. We said, yes it is, it's 89 buses. He said, actually it's 178 buses. Because there's 89 going this direction, and then there's 89 come back this direction. So if you stood at 4th Street and Highway 61, you would see 178 buses every weekday. It goes down to 76 buses on Saturday, 60 and Sunday. Costs $474 million to build. We'll touch on that later. Annual cost $15 million to operate. 7 new dedicated bridges, including new bus bridge on 684. Replaces 6 miles of the beautiful Bruce Bento Trail with the bus expressway. Okay. 21 stops between St. Paul and Whitebear Lake. So if anybody thinks this is an express busway, no. Estimate 5,500 riders per day, 60-foot articulated buses. I had to look up what's an articulated bus. It means it's the combination bus that pivots in the middle, 60 feet long at this point. And that's a fact. And there's been discussion about whether it's EV or diesel. I got verification yesterday at 12:05 from Ramsey County that said their phrasing is they are gradually transitioning to EV in the years ahead. Okay? So that's where they're at. It removes 48 parking spaces in White Bear, uses 70 spaces at the TCO garden up at County Road E and Highway 61. 44 minutes to get to White Bear, from White Bear to St. Paul. 47 minutes from St. Paul to White Bear Lake. So it's not an express route. If you think you're going to commute downtown St. Paul or something, it's not a best solution. Okay, there's some additional points, 21 stops. There's the Bruce Bento Trail, beautiful green corridor, 6+ miles. That's the before. It's highly regarded, one of the most impressive regional trails in the Twin Cities area. The after is the bottom shot. That 6 miles of that corridor through Maplewood is going to be rebuilt. The entire green foliage, tree canopy is going to be taken away, and it's going to be a dedicated bus guideway, they call it, expressway. Buses going both directions, and a walkway next to it, a sidewalk next to it, which will become the new Bruce Bento Trail. Okay? Oh, 21 stops, just note also, they had clarification that you think of each one of those stops, we said 5,500 riders. The expectation is any rider is going to have to walk up to 10 to 15 minutes or 6 blocks to get to their nearest station. Now, you think January, and I'm opinionating a little bit here because we're past the facts, but if you think January, February, an elder person who's going to walk 6 blocks to get to their doctor's office and walk 6 blocks after they get dropped off, it's not a good fit. All right. All right, now our concerns and voices, ridership estimates are outdated. Public transit needs post-COVID have changed. Now this is significant because it's not just us or you folks who are concerned about these estimates that this project is based on. The American Public Transportation Association is quoted as saying post-COVID, public transit will come back differently, will have to adapt to the changes. Okay, that's the American Public Transportation Association, just as some quoted. I wrote these down so I don't mess them up. Sunday, the Center for Transportation Studies at the U of M was quoted in an article in Pioneer Press. Transportation choices have been impacted hugely by COVID across the board. We should think about all of our planned projects in a new way. This is the University of Minnesota Center for Transportation Studies. So it's not just us. Ridership is down 43%, first quarter of 21. Local bus service down 58%, eliminates bridge rental, damages the small town feel and charm of downtown Waker Lake. Business and residents pulls the line, we've got some from that. Estimated cost for first year of operation. Now this is looking at some numbers. We've had a lot of people email us and call us and say, look at these numbers. If the bus line is built for $474 million, they operate for 1 year. Let's say something happens after that first year, they have to shut it down because it's low ridership, or something crazy like a pandemic happens. It will have cost $240 per person that gets on that bus. And the definition of a rider, that we got clarification from, it doesn't mean a rider goes from St. Paul to White Bear Lake. If one person gets on at stop 3 and gets off at stop 4, that's a rider. So it just cost us $240 for that person. If that person gets back on at the end of the day at 4, gets off at 3, it just cost us $480 for that rider, the first year of operation. If they run it for 3 years, that cost per rider drops down to $85. Now this is not subsidy because if they charge that rider a fare, or if they realize some income from revenue, there's some income. If they charge that rider in the first year $240, they break even. Okay, so that's how you can look at numbers. Other folks have sent us numbers that it costs $30 million a mile to build this thing. And you think $474 million, what does that look like, feel like? What does $30 million look like and feel like? This person said, when you break that down, if they put down 1 inch of asphalt, that's $480 for every inch of asphalt for this project. $480 every inch. Okay. It's not express, it's not door to door. It's an bus expressway alongside Weaver Elementary School in Maplewood, playground there. So you're going to have 178 buses that those kids may have to cross. Buses and parking in Harvest Park. Harvest Park is one of the premier parks in Maplewood. It's going to reduce that size of that park. Very, very well-used park. Moves 40 off street, 8th Street. Parking space in White Bear, uses 70 in TCL. Increases traffic congestion with the new White Bear High School. 7th and 8th Street, that's where those buses are going to turn around behind Beartown. And that's where the majority of kids are going to come off Highway 61 and move on to the high school. Okay, so I'm trying to emphasize that also. So here's some additional numbers. The communities. In 2018, if folks remember, Ramsey County Met Council came to White Bear City Hall. They did an open house. And if you recall, they put up some poster boards and they said, we want the folks to decide which option is the best place to put a station in White Bear Lake. And a number of us came out of that saying, boy, they didn't give us an option for no station. Okay? So after that event, a local attorney started a petition, and within a few months he got 4,000 signatures. It's up to 4,500 folks have signed that that thing is of 2019. We've also talked to businesses across multiple communities. 103 businesses we've walked into, met with either the owner or the general manager who represents that owner. And we picked these randomly, we did not cherry pick, we randomly visited businesses. Out of the 103 we've contacted to date, 100 of those opposed the project. And one of the selling points that Ramsey County pitches is that businesses want this. And so we're talking event centers like these folks, realtors, banks, retail, restaurants, spas and salons. There was like 23 some spas and salons in the White Bear greater area. We've had those folks take petitions from us and say they'll have all their customers sign. Seriously? Okay, approximately 400 people signed cards mailed to local dealers. Maybe you've seen those green cards, or I'm sorry, they're orange cards that folks have really signed their name, put their address down. We address and send them to Joe Anderson. We send them to Victoria Ryder. We've sent them to every elected official in every community from here to St. Paul. And actually that number is up to 700 now. So we've had 700 people sign those cards opposing this project, and it ends up on their desk, including Bill's desk. All right. Did I miss one thought there? Go back one. Oh, and I don't want to lose sight that we started a new petition just about 4.5 months ago. Online petition. We've had 1,200 people sign online, and we've had 1,300 people walk up to us and sign in person their name and their opposition to this and talk to us and tell us what's important to us, to them. So that's pretty dramatic. We've had 1,300 people interact with us in the last 4 months. Okay. John Lake has passed a motion opposing the project. Our response from the public is adamantly and passionately opposed. We spent 4 weeks at Market Fest, which is really neat to interact with folks. People would come up and grab our arm. And they said, we got to stop this. This is crazy. It doesn't fit. So we talked to a lot of folks, listened to a lot of folks. We do pop-up events on Bruce Mental Trail. Within a matter of an hour and a half, we get 800, 100 people signing the petition. We have pop-up events on South Shore Boulevard. People are adamantly opposed to this. Okay. Comments from people that at Market Fest they wrote down. You get the drift here. You know, not feasible. No one will ride the buses. Makes no sense. Not safe. Unsafe. Waste of transportation dollars. Okay. Okay, so that we are just not a voice of discontent. We are suggesting alternatives. We've done a lot of work. We've got a really sharp group that we're working with, and including we're hearing from a lot of voices and talking to all the businesses and residents. We are asking for an alternative, smaller buses, less frequent buses, use existing roadways. Don't destroy Bruce Mental Trail when you've got corridors like Highway 61, like we have other corridors. Phased implementation. This concept of a big bang mega bus line, I can't imagine any business who would think they can implement something at $474 million and expect it's going to build it and they will come mentality. So phase it until you build your ridership, if there's ridership. Expand and use existing public transit services and existing infrastructure. There's 3 bus services that happen now in this area, actually throughout the entire corridor. Metro Mobility, I'm sure you've heard it, door to door for eligible riders. They are ADA eligible, disabled folks. Metro Mobility suffers lack of funding every year. Let's put another $10, $15 million into that and get that fully funded for those folks who need that type of service. Transit Link, I'm not sure, anybody heard about Transit Link? So Transit Link is provided by the Met Council. Transit Link is a bus service on demand that for $3.50 during business hours, I can call Transit Link and say, I want you to pick me up at my door and take me to Cub Foods. $3.50. I don't have to be ADA compliant. I don't have to be lacking car service. I don't have to be disabled. It essentially is the Uber of Metro Transit now. So put another $10, $15 million in that. Our culture is starting to live by this Uber concept. So fund that, expand that. New Tracks. New Tracks is a bus service that is actually serves this northern part of the Twin Cities. They have a bus station right near Conroe and Highway 61. We've got about 42 buses right now. They're looking to expand. They do what we call customized routes. They have routes that are dedicated in, say, the north part of White Bear Lake area, Vadnais Heights. They have a south route that's dedicated in White Bear, Vadnais Heights, Montemita, Gem Lake. They service employers, they service senior living facilities, and they have a regular schedule, and they pick these folks up. It's a nonprofit. They pick these folks up on a regular basis and take them to shopping, entertainment, to church. They can do dedicated routing for an employer. An employer that has 60 employees creates a dedicated route with tracks. They say, I want you to pick up these people. Here's their address. Pick them up at their door between 7:30 and 8:30. Drop them at my door at 9 o'clock. At the end of the day, pick them up again and distribute it back to the house door to door. So that's new tracks. They want to expand. Let's invest $15 to $20 million in them. Let's serve them. Okay. Our ask. I'll pass them 4 minutes. All right. All right. So our ask. This is what we are asking the elected officials. We want them to pause the development of the project. Just pause. Again, this is not no public transit. This is just pause. Reassess the ridership estimates, which we think will significantly impact the design and the cost. Conduct a cost-benefit analysis, which Met Council always seems to be devoid of. And the best practices, pre-project evaluation by the Legislative Auditor's Office, which a state senator and a state representative have asked to have done on the Southwest Light Rail. So this would be perfect. The Legislative Auditor's Office is a neutral party who does great evaluation work. Let's have them figure out if this is good cost benefit. And there's also something called a social benefit analysis. So what is the social benefit in this versus the cost? Let's have somebody else look at this. Design an innovative, cost-effective, efficient solution, use existing services, and best practices for post-COVID transportation needs. Again, we're not the only ones who think these plans need to be reassessed with different projects. Okay, as I said, we don't disapprove of public transit, but we need the right fit for transit and for our users and our communities. Okay, so that's a message. We're going to wrap it up here. We're done. Oh, let's go next one. So just to be technically accurate, these are all items that are sourced. We talked about the facts. They're sourced in the environmental assessment from Ramsey County, 135 pages, so everyone wants to read it. We've confirmed these numbers, so those are the facts I'm going to try to stick to tonight, but we certainly are going to have folks respond to those facts and their views and opinions. But again, as Bill said, let's keep it civil and respectful, but we look forward to hearing from you folks. We're going to record it, and the entire recording is going to go to the elected officials who didn't choose to show up tonight. So, that's all. Okay, a little nuance that we thought would be important here is that we are going to have folks stand up on the mic and we have up to 4 minutes. You don't have to take 4 minutes. If you just want to say something in a minute, that's fine. But we want people to get up and express their opinion, because part of why Bill really pushed for this thing to happen is we don't feel there's been a community-wide or communities-wide forum for folks to speak up. And that's part of our issue. We don't think the elected folks are listening. So this is a chance for you folks to get your voice heard. But because we want to be respectful and stay attached to the facts as much as possible, but we do want your heartfelt opinions and views, if we hear somebody in the first 4 speakers that is throwing out some really egregious, incorrect facts, after each 4th speaker, we're going to pause and what Bill called a myth buster. So the first 2 slides that we have are those facts. So if somebody throws something up that doesn't match those 4 facts, we're not going to call you by name, but we will correct that. If somebody said it's 2,000 buses, we're going to correct it. It's 178 buses. We're going to correct that note. Okay, so that's just a subtlety of what we're going to do.
Gently, we'll gently correct. Keep the record, we want to keep the record on the factual basis. So, we'll make this too scientific, but we've got a microphone here. It's our only mic, so maybe whoever wants to go first, and I think if we just did a line along the side over here, people just get in line, and then we can just keep it going, and when you feel the urge to come up and speak, the timer will go off at 4 minutes, and everybody will know, and we'll just move on to the next speaker. So, let's have it. First speaker. Thanks. Maybe introduce yourself and what town you're from. Maybe that'll help us know who everybody is. Thanks.
Is the mic not on? Hello.
Push the button.
Hi, my name is Carol Hundred. I'm actually Celine's sister over at Keys, White Bear Lake. So I'm from Keys on I'm here representing the Rossmore Building and Lunds and Center for Independent Living. So we get Black Sheep, Sawadee Camp, Tin Whiskers, Scott Mill Pottery, Pottery Studio, and a tattoo shop. We are the largest. We are the largest block of retail in downtown St. Paul right now, which is crazy. There's nothing in the inner city. And so we have been inundated with bike lanes. So they've basically taken, there's Robert Street in Jackson. They've taken Jackson, all the parking off Jackson. They've taken the parking off 10th. And there's like about 3 spots on 9th. The bus lane is proposed to take all the parking off Robert Street on both sides. And they're going to put a bus stop in front of Lunds and the Center for Independent Living. I mean, this will devastate our businesses. And 178 buses a day. Our patios will be virtually, who can sit out there? You know, the electric vehicles, that's a long way down the road. And I was so glad when I found this on Facebook, because we've been fighting it alone. Well, we've got Mike Zipko, who's a publicist, and Leslie Rosedal. And we met with him yesterday, and Mike has a lot of really good connections, and I think he's really going to help with our groups together. So, I mean, I love White Bear Lake, downtown White Bear Lake, and I couldn't believe, you know, when I heard what they were going to do as far as putting the buses down here. And then Highway 61 will just be a nightmare for traffic, with those buses going up and down. So I'm really so happy to see that we have a huge network here, and I really think that we have to fight. You know, our politicians need to listen. You know, it's not. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Greg Lees, and I have a letter here from Kevin Whelan, who is the market president of Franzen Bank and Trust, dated today. And it reads, I am Kevin J. Whelan, a current resident of Shoreview and have lived in White Bear Lake for over 25 years. Currently employed as market president at Franzen Bank and Trust in Vadnais Heights at the TCO Sports Complex on Highway 61. I am unable to attend the event this evening as I'm caring for my wife who has some health concerns. In the past, I have financed 2 brand new restaurants in downtown White Bear Lake. Both of the dining establishments have outdoor dining, and the thought of dining outside with 89 buses running up and down Highway 61 is troublesome, to say the least. When we first moved to White Bear Lake in 1987, the downtown was in despair with many vacant buildings and very few options for dining. Now the downtown area is thriving with numerous stops and shops and eateries for the locals and visitors to enjoy. The small town charm is unique and much more established than most other Twin Cities suburban cities. That small town charm will be irreparably harmed by the rush line. Years ago, I worked for a bank in the northwest suburbs and drove from White Bear Lake to Ramsey every morning on Highway 10. The inbound traffic on Highway 10 was horrific in the morning, and I assumed that if there was ever a corridor that could benefit from mass transit, it would be the Highway 10 corridor. I was wrong. The North Star commuter line has been a failure. Prior to the pandemic, the subsidy paid by the Met Council per passenger was $19.39 per rider. During the pandemic, that subsidy rose to $62.95 per passenger each way. The proposed rush line is projected to cost $474 million for its 15-mile route. That equates to a capital cost per mile of $31,600,000. That is just to build the line and doesn't include any daily operating expenses. In my past life, I was a CFO for a transportation company. In that capacity, I soon learned that the most expensive commodity you can ship is air. Air doesn't pay any expenses incurred for transportation. So, if empty trains and buses are traveling throughout our communities, who do you think is going to pay for the empty buses? You and I are, in the form of higher taxes. If that doesn't make someone want to peel back the onion on the rush line, I don't know what does. As Beth Artner so aptly wrote in the White Bear Press in the letter to the editor's column, it's time to take the pork out of this pig, the rush line. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hi, my name is Tony Scandali. I live in Maplewood, and my property is on the Bruce Vento Trail. Closer? I have a lot to say about this, but I've been asked to read a letter from Fred Dom, who's a member of the Maplewood Planning Commission. We haven't heard a lot from Maplewood, so this is kind of exciting. I am opposed to the rush line, now the purple line, question mark. $32 million per mile to build it, and the taxpayers pick up the tab. This is absurd. I cannot understand why we want to run a bus down an old railroad right-of-way. This railroad right-of-way runs parallel to 61, so why don't we try and do something that makes sense and run the bus down Highway 61? Put in some pretty bus stop stations and call it a day. Meanwhile, have Metropolitan Commission and Metro Transit pick up the tab from the existing tax levy and revenue they currently enjoy. No increase in cost. It should pay for itself. With the decrease in business office space in the inner city, the date is old and flawed. I noticed that Ramsey County seemed to have reservations. They did not pay for an environmental impact study, but rather said there's no environmental impact. Question mark. It seems like a misfire. This is beyond anything I've ever seen. I'm on the Maplewood Planning Commission, and I have attended some public focus groups only to observe Victoria Reinhardt ignoring the public concerns and basically stating they did not know what they were talking about. She is a Ramsey County Commissioner and probably initiated the purchase of the railroad right-of-way. I have a Planning Commission meeting at 7 p.m. on October 19th, so I cannot attend the meeting in White Bear Lake. Please help me get my voice heard. Fred Dom.
My name is Barb Vika, and I'm a White Bear Lake resident for the past 46 years. And I gotta say, Tim, the information you gave tonight is probably the most I've ever heard on this project. The whole project from the beginning, the new buzzword nowadays is transparent, and this has been anything but transparent. And also, there was no community involvement or input to begin with. The way I found out about it, a lot of times I find a little tiny story in the White Bear Press. And a lot of people, not everyone gets the White Bear Press, or it was on social media. Not everybody's on social media. One thing that shocked me about 2 weeks ago is I'm reading the St. Paul Pioneer Press, and I see that Ramsey County decided to throw in $40 million towards the project, which that was the first I heard of. And with what's going on in Ramsey County, there's so many other things that money could be put to better use. Could that $40 million be put into a better project that would benefit everyone in Ramsey County? And then I want everyone in this room right now to envision a kind of a back to the future. If this was 5 years ago and the project was in existence and was completed, what would it look like in today's environment? Some food for thought. We don't need this boondoggle, and if you know what a boondoggle is, it's an extravagant and useless project. Thank you.
While the next speaker's coming up, it reminds me that the Gem Lake City Council is meeting tonight, right now. So I said a lot of elected officials have been invited. The Gem Lake folks are in a meeting right now. That's why they're not here. So just reminded me to say that. So.
It works. Hi, Chuck Pearson, Maplewood. I don't have a lot of figures or, percentages or anything. I have an attitude. I retired a few years ago and I walk on that trail a lot. I talk to people. I'm pretty social and I haven't run into one person that is in favor of this. Everybody is against it. And in my opinion, it's a big waste of money. There's a lot of other things that we could spend our money on. And I try to obey the law, I pay my taxes. I don't see the wisdom here. I see a big waste, and it's just, I can't put it into words. It's hard. I like to be on that trail, and if this thing goes through, I'll just tell my wife, we're going to move. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Heidi Hughes. I'm actually running for City Council from this ward, Ward 2, with this upcoming election. And I think sometimes what we're looking for is something to do. And I'll give you a couple things to do after this. One, self-serving, vote for me. Vote for Dan Lewismet, who will probably also speak. And continue to write letters. I spent a number of years working on Capitol Hill, working for members of Congress, and then lobbying on transportation issues. And the idea that we can't do anything or our city council doesn't have a voice in this simply because we're not the payer for it is simply wrong. We elect people, that election gives them power. That's not power over any of us. Anybody could run. None of us is any better than anybody else. But because you're sitting on that city council, you have a different kind of voice. And so let's demand that our city council respond to us, the elected members, on the outcome and as the days go forward. I just give you a lot of credit, Tim. This is such a great presentation, lays out so much. And Bill for getting up here and doing this. You don't come to very many community meetings where you've got this many people. I mean, I'm sure there are people that are for the project in this room, and I welcome you. But look at how many people are here. This is an amazing turnout, and I think that we should be proud of each other, but also, this is what's so great about White Bear Lake. This is why my husband and I moved here. We've been joked with on the campaign trail, oh, you're the new people that moved in. Maybe we are, maybe we're the new generation, but we're also the generation that chose this. My husband and I wanted to move here, we wanted to have our kids here. We love being here. This was a proactive decision, and I don't want to see it destroyed by people who want to basically make White Bear Lake downtown St. Paul. So, please, again, self-serving, vote for me, vote for Dan, but continue to do this. Don't consider this the last action you give.
My name is Joan Michaud. I've lived in White Bear all my life. And I have a very emotional stake in this whole thing. As a young woman, I took a bus to work from the north end of White Bear Lake to St. Paul, and from St. Paul back to the north end of White Bear Lake. At that time, there was a bus depot that occupied most of the block on Second and Valley. And I suppose there were more buses, but I never saw them because I didn't take them. Anyway, that disappeared, and we have businesses there. But as I grew up and married and as a homemaker in White Bear, I became very interested in the Historical Society. And so my interest is pretty much emotional. As a member of the Historical Society, I was in charge of the tour program, and we did bus tours. Before all the buses went for day tripping, went to the casinos, they used to come around to towns like White Bear. I'd meet them at the City Hall, bring them in and show them that lovely mural that we had, tell them the story of the mural, very interesting, and show them a slide presentation that was professionally done to tell them the story of White Bear. White Bear is not part of the urban sprawl. Where is downtown Vadnais Heights? Where is downtown Maplewood? There isn't any. But White Bear has a very definite downtown, and it has a very definite history. And they learned that from this slide presentation that I would show them. And then we get on the bus, and we drive around White Bear and show them White Bear proper, and then all of our White Bear suburbs. That was all part of the Historical Society. And have lunch someplace and tour the Philograms house. This was White Bear, and people would say, what a lovely town. I was pleased just a few weeks ago to read in the paper a fan letter from people that had visited White Bear and wrote to the White Bear Press to say, what a beautiful town. The walking, we had walked down Clark Street, that beautiful promenade that memorializes our servicemen, and at the end with a beautiful place to sit and reflect on some very interesting subjects. White Bear is very special, and I beg our people who are in charge of the politics, don't ruin it, please.
I'm retired like that other fellow. You know, you're on a set budget. I'm retired from corrections. So I could go two ways with this. Tell you about the gloom and doom, about what I know. I'm jaded because I was with the worst of the worst. I don't want to see, we got enough problems, man. You people have no idea what's walking amongst us. Besides that, being on a set budget, man, all I'm seeing is tax, spend, tax. My only message is let's just stop for a while. It's out of control. The spending, I feel sorry for the kids nowadays. We just gotta quit, spend it. Let's just try it, see what happens. This boondoggle is gonna be just a bleeder that we don't need. I see empty buses all the time anyway. I just hope there's something we can do about this, because it's really getting old, all the spending and taxing. When's it end?
Hi, my name's Peggy Poto, and I'm in Ward 2, actually, Heidi, so we talked the other day. I have some concerns. I live fairly close to the new school, or the new high school, I should say, and not to go against the school per se, one question I asked at one of the meetings is, have you done a feasibility study on the traffic of having the new high school in this area? I'm hearing we haven't really done that for the Metro Transit Rush Line bus either. So imagine 700 additional cars driving in through downtown to come to the high school per day for school. These are your students, teachers, parents. Now we have 89 buses coming through. Imagine going to work in the morning, coming home at night, and what's going to happen when there's an accident on 35E or snow. I think it's gonna be a total nightmare coming through our city. What I can ask of each and every one of you in this room is get involved. I took my car into the car dealer last week. I had some signs in the back of my car. I sold 3 of them right there and then to people that want to get involved. People don't know how, they don't know what to do. I've also talked to neighbors walking my dog around the block. I got signatures on a petition. Please get active. Try and talk to your neighbors, talk to people. Home Depot, we're looking for a leaf blower. Talking to a woman there, they were out of stock, talked to her. She said she lives in Maplewood. She says, I live a few blocks from where that bus is gonna go. I don't want it and I don't know what to do. So please talk to people. That's the best way we can try to stop this thing.
Hi, I'm Matt Kuechly. I live about 5 or 6 blocks from here for about the last 25 years. South St. Paul boy, but White Bear Lake always kicked ass in football, so I know. I, for 22 years, rode the express bus to work downtown Minneapolis. So I'm a great big fan of mass transit. I came in undecided, and I've been convinced that I'm anti-rush line by now. The most slide is the alternative slide. You know, when I was riding the express bus, it's a little different, but they were changing the schedule. You always had to watch the schedule week to week because buses were leaving at different times, more buses, fewer buses, and now they're promoting all these buses with no ridership. So that's one big thing. My other question is, why White Bear Lake to St. Paul? Why do I want to go to St. Paul, or St. Paul people want to come to White Bear Lake? I mean, either way, nothing against either of them. But am I going to get on a bus downtown St. Paul to come in, nothing against Eats, but am I going to come up for lunch at Eats from downtown St. Paul? I think not. So I guess, again, I would be on that bus and I would look at the freeway and the traffic jams and I would say, are you people crazy sitting there while I'm in the express lane going to work? And then I would think, you know, look at this bus is packed. Look at all the cars this is taking off the road. And that's good for an express bus, but again, I drive to Maplewood Mall. I think I could have walked to the corner and taken a bus to Maplewood Mall. So I just don't get the whole purpose of it. But thank you for the alternatives, because I could see, you know, put a bus in to Maplewood Mall from downtown and see how that works. And if that works really well, take more cars off the street and put in a second bus. But don't go crazy and tear up our trails and wreck downtown to run empty buses past. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Samantha Furman. I've lived in White Bear for almost 11 years. Now, a couple years ago when they redid 61 and put in the medians and everything, they talked about how we were going to be encouraging more bike riding. And so that's what I was excited about with, I have 7 kids and we all bike up to downtown or we bike up to Cummington. But if you're gonna put all that extra bus traffic on 61, I'm not gonna feel safe trying to cross 61 with my trail of kids on their bikes following me. Or sending up my oldest now tries to bike himself more, and I'm not gonna let him go do that if there's gonna be that much more traffic. And so I guess I don't understand why we did a bunch of, you know, adding medians and shrinking down the lanes for these, you know, bikes, and now you're gonna put a bunch of buses on it and not have room to drive anywhere normally, or for the bikers to be doing what they want to do. So I guess that's kind of our big, you know, reason for why we're hoping that people will keep pushing our elected officials to say no. Thank you.
My name is Terry Gerke, and I'm not from White Bear Lake. I'm from St. Paul, and I'm right at that slide there where they had the nice greenway. We live right by that, so no, if you wanted to go from there to the mall, from St. Paul to the Maplewood Mall, but we don't. And we actually had meetings that was put on by the higher ups that are doing this all. And we were ignored. I think we went to 3 or 4. I asked my husband, he didn't remember. We were ignored at everyone. So I want to thank you for having this. We're not from White Bear Lake, but at least you could come and there's a petition that you could sign. And we're behind you and ask that you be behind us and don't let them put it anywhere.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Lewisman, and I'm running for mayor here in White Bear Lake. First, I want to say thanks to Bill Walsh for having the courage to actually organize this forum. Thank you to Bill Walsh for actually organizing this forum so that we had an opportunity to actually have our voices heard, and I think that's something that's been lacking for the last several years in local government. And like Heidi, I do want to take this opportunity because this next election is very, very important to the future of the city. But that's something that needs to change. Elected officials are not listening to the residents of White Bear Lake, and that has to change. I found out some time ago that I'm 36 years old, and I found out that the conversation for this project started about 25 years ago. So it begs the question, how many decades need to go by of pushing a boulder uphill? Is it going to take for these elected officials to understand that this project does not work, will not work, and people don't want it? 25 years of this. I was 9 years old at the time. So, the rush line itself begs the broader question, do we have a need for public transportation in White Bear Lake and the East Metro? I think the answer is yes. And the alternatives that are proposed are great solutions. New tracks, Metro Mobility, those are good, modern, point-to-point solutions that people are looking for. So I support everything that was said with funding those additional projects. That's what people are looking for. I conjure up this idea in my head of a senior citizen, elderly person who's trying to make it to the grocery store or the doctor's office, that they're going to take this 60-foot bus, this big platform, then walk 5 or 6 blocks to the doctor's office. That doesn't work. Point to point works, and we have those solutions. Let's ramp those up. That just makes sense. There are 2 broader points that I really, really want to address, and that is the fact that all the unrest, all the uproar of Rushline, to me indicates a broader concern other than just one transportation project. It's about mass transportation. It's about urbanization of this community. It's about dense housing. And I grew up in White Bear Lake, and so many of you have said it. It's the small town charm, the downtown area, the lake. That is unique. And I want to read something that's directly from the comprehensive plan that this actually quotes the Met Council. This is the Met Council of all entities' description of White Bear Lake. White Bear Lake is unique in the Twin Cities in that it is much older than most suburban communities and contains elements such as a traditional neighborhood street grid and downtown area that are not typically found in suburban communities. You're damn right, that's White Bear. We're not some other suburb. We're not a collection of mini malls and big box stores. And I think elected officials have a responsibility to fight to preserve that tradition. The narrative that seems to be making the rounds recently is, hey, this is up to Met Council, this is up to Ramsey County, this is beyond our control, we're just along for the ride. No, I don't agree with that. I think the fact that we're all here tonight is a testament to that fact. That's not true. The application hasn't been submitted to the federal government, which is, the project hinges on that funding. So we do have an opportunity to voice our opinion. And I think this next election is key. The vote next month is key. And I would encourage all of you that are in Ward 2 to vote for Heidi Hughes. She shares my belief in this idea of preserving and protecting White Bear Lake, preserving our history, charm, and character. And I would ask for those that are residents of White Bear Lake to vote for Dan Lewisman on November 2nd. Thank you.
Jim Molnar. I've been here since 1970. It seems like a lifetime. The question I have is, what happens if the ridership is not achieved? Will the Ramsey County or whoever is pushing this restore all the damage they have done that this project would cause? It's a question I ask myself. What I want to know is, why not align it along 35E and have a small bus service to communities back and forth, rather than carrying right through all these communities and disrupting everything? It would be so much better to have it along 35E. It's already an established route, and it would be so much easier just to have a small bus go from 35E into White Bear Lake or into Badlands Heights or Forest Lake or wherever. The question, I'm a long distance biker, and when I think of having 89 buses go along the bike trail from St. Paul, I have done that ride hundreds of times. And I said, why do you want to pollute the bike trail with bus fuels? I mean, I just can't quite understand that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Sherrill, and I am not running for office. I have an office down here in downtown White Bear Lake. I've been here about 25 years. I'm a taxpayer, just like the rest of you. And looking at the audience, I would say a fair amount of you have been paying taxes for 40 or 50 years. The point I want to make is we pay those taxes with the expectation that it will be wisely used and wisely spent. What I see here in the rush line is a solution to a problem that does not exist.
Good evening. I just want to say it's really awesome that you all are here, that you're taking responsibility for your community, and whether you're for this or against this, that you are here and taking an engaged action to support your life and your community. My name is Catherine Nicholson, and I also am not running for office. But I live in Delwood, and I used to work for the Department of Transportation for 365 days. That was all I could stand. And I worked in highways and recreation areas, so this is kind of a similar thing. I don't really know what's going on with this. I've gone to community meetings that were involved in the east side of St. Paul with 7th Street and Sweet Hollow, where we were allowed to talk about how we didn't want it to go through Sweet Hollow, and I'm not sure if it's going through Sweet Hollow. I think we protest, it's going, okay, well, see, that group was able to evoke change, or actually it would end up at Payne and East 7th, and that's not really a commercial location that I think the route would want to go on. But I wanted to talk to you about, not only do you want to engage with your White Bear Lake Council people, we need to talk to our Met Council representative. We need Met Council to recognize that over 170 people came to an evening meeting on the last nice day that we had, and cared enough to come and are concerned about this future routing that does sound like a boondoggle, a total waste of money. Our budget is already crazy, and we could stop and not spend some money like this other person said. So there is a person who is your Met Council representative, because I was a candidate for that at one point, and I don't know who it is now, but that person ought to know how we feel. So you should call them at council, say, I live in such and such, who is my representative? And then we email them or call them or communicate with them so they realize that there are people who are really upset about this. We also, MnDOT is not directly involved in this, but I think anytime you make a phone call or write a letter, because I lobby for the environment, and so the training is like one phone call is worth 1,000 people. One letter is maybe even larger than, or maybe it's 400 people for one phone call. One letter is 1,000 people, but you are evoking representation much larger than your one call. I'd also talk to Metro Mobility because it sounds like it's kind of trying to put them out of a job. Well, I mean, they have an iron in this fire, and maybe they have an opinion about it. Or at least they could say, well, we've gotten a lot of calls, and people don't understand why, we're not being used, and why this bus line is going to help them. Also, our state legislators, there's all of those people who represent us beyond right here in White Bear, and those people need to feel the pressure. And also the Federal Highway Department, they are the ones who are going to put out the big amount of money. We want them to know that they're squeakers. We all need to be squeakers. And squeak and make a sound, because when you make a sound, that's when you address that squeaky wheel. So please be squeaky wheels. And the last thing is, one question, when were these projections made that said, this is important for this community, or Wyoming, or Rush City? When were those projections made, and have they been reevaluated since COVID? I doubt it, but that ought to be done before this decision is made. We ought to have accurate numbers. So, thanks.
Good evening. My name is Leanne. I'm not going to disclose my last name for confidential reasons. I am the mother of a police officer who supports Evanis Heights, Little Canada, and White Bear Township. The Walmart in Evanis Heights has so much crime already. They've just moved Marshalls across the street that just opened up last Thursday. I do believe there will be more increased crime. I do not shop at Walmart over there in the last 3 years because I have heard numerous things from my son. I read about it in the White Bear Press. I'm sure this isn't anything new to any of us. I've lived in White Bear Township for 24 years. I grew up in Frogtown in St. Paul. I lived on Sherburne, which is 1 block north of University Avenue, between Avon and Victoria. I lived there prior to I-94 coming through. I lived there before the Green Line came through. And if you've read about the Green Line, all that's been there is crime. I have ridden the Green Line, and I've had experiences with numerous crime that is appalling. That is the Green Line, and I understand that that's from downtown St. Paul to Minneapolis. No one's talked about the crime that will be brought to these communities, and there will be crime. Again, I am the mother of a law enforcement police officer, and there will be a lot more crime if this passes. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Copeland. I live in St. Paul, and it appalls me that these county commissioners that are making $100,000 a year didn't show up tonight. It appalls me because, when I go down to their meetings like I did when they were trying to stick us with the sports stadium a few years ago, and 35 years of sales taxes, by the way, they had all the little county board people stand and say their little piece about why that was a good idea. And then I said, wait a minute, you haven't heard the other side. You haven't heard the other side. Well, we had to go out in the hallway with all the TV cameras to get heard because Miss Victoria gavelled me down. Well, you know what? We beat that. We beat that in February of the next year. And so when people tell you things are going to happen, don't believe them. Don't believe them. It's bull. And I could say something else, but I won't because I like them. And he's a good guy here. Called this meeting tonight. He's a brave man. And the man with the stats here. Wow. But seriously, folks, I think you're being way too nice. Tim, you're too nice a guy. You should have a no-build option. This should be done. There is no value in this project. There never has been any value in this project. This is actually, from a Maplewood perspective, I used to work in Maplewood for a young lady standing over there, Diana Longgreen, who was the mayor of Maplewood. I was the city manager there. And that Bruce Vento Trail is magnificent. It's one of the top 10 trails in Minnesota. Did you know that? And we have elected officials that would commit a Holocaust on that trail. And you know what? They didn't even have the guts to say the word tree. We had a bus trip up there a few years ago from downtown, from Union Station, with all the elected officials and all the staff that are paid to work on this project. And they said, well, we're going to remove all the existing vegetation. The existing vegetation. Well, you know what, folks? We're not stupid. We are the people. We're the ones that are supposed to be driving the bus. Am I right? Aren't we supposed to be driving the bus? It's our darn bus. It's our money. It's our community. And what's scary about this project is it's got this far with what? Barely a whimper. And they love having their little community seances. You get to come to their pop-up meeting, and you've got 6 staff and 2 people there telling them what they think. You know what, folks? That's not democracy. This town hall meeting here tonight, direct democracy. And where are our county commissioners? They're not here. And that's where we need to be active. We need to say no build on this, and then you folks need to go out and find some new county commissioners. That's the answer to this problem. And the gentleman here who's a biker. 35E, we've got mid-pass out there, right? The state of Minnesota spent millions of dollars building that expressway, even more than it had been in the past. And this is all something that occurred while they're all talking about this bus road to White Bear Lake. They forgot that they built this thing. I remember going down there one day with a map and showing them. You know, folks, we already have a bus road to White Bear Lake from St. Paul. And I rode on that little bus ride with all those elected officials. And nobody sent me an invitation. I just heard about the meeting and showed up. You know what it took? On a Friday afternoon in the summertime, 13 minutes. So, you know what? There isn't a problem. We got the road, and we should hold. And Tim? Okay, I'm going to sit down. No build. No build. Do not negotiate this thing into some sort of future discussion. Because that's when they, pull out their cards. All right.
I want to take advantage of the low of the action. Greg, appreciate the passion. You are my friend. You used one word I would not have used. I think you know what it is. It's not going to be that bad. It's never that bad. So maybe we could have not used that one word you used. But otherwise, I like your passion. Let me talk about traffic study. That was brought up earlier. Just to speak from the city's perspective on the high school, we did do a traffic study in preparation for permitting, everything that has to go on with the new school. It was difficult to do, I'll tell you that, because during COVID, no one was driving around. So it was very difficult for the engineers to get a really good traffic study during this time when people were not driving normal traffic patterns. They did their best. There will be increased traffic, I can tell you. I live on Bald Eagle Avenue. I believe that the traffic will all even get down to me coming from school and going to school because, you know, juniors and seniors will now be up at North Campus. So, but just to understand, we did do a traffic study that does exist. You can go online and find it, I'm sure, or call the city. It was difficult to do. They spent extra time and money trying to get an accurate number, and they did include the buses in that traffic study. So I don't know if you'll like the traffic study results or you'll believe them, but just know that that is always done in every project we do, including the new high school. There's a lot of city work going into the new schools that are going around town, which we have to do, which is good, just to get everything done right, including the traffic study. So I don't know about, you know, the other traffic studies related to the entire project, but we did attempt to do a good traffic study for the school. So, all right, we'll stop talking. Who's next? Who's next? We can't be done.
Well,
So people aren't confused when they hear.
yeah, the Ramsey County Met Council have attempted to change the name to the Purple Line. You may have seen reference to that. We as a coalition, we refuse to accept that terminology at this point. It's still the Rush Line. The Met Council has a policy that when they go operational with the line, they give it a name. So they have a blue line, the green line, etc. when they're operational. So this is not operational, and we think they are trying to rebrand it so they get away from the Rush Line name, which has such a bad view in the public's opinion. And we think it's inappropriate, and we think they accelerated that rebranding probably like 2-3 years, because they aren't going to start construction for a couple years. So they accelerated that to get away from that negative view that everybody has in Rush Line. We're not calling it the Purple Line. It's still a Rush Line West. That's one question. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Originally, I thought this was supposed to be from St. Paul to Rush City.
Yes, that's correct.
I'm 25, I'm a little bit, getting a little brave and forgetting things, but I'm just wondering what happened to the Forest Lake and the Rush City parking lot?
You know, I don't have that knowledge. Bill, why they stopped?
So they would love to take it to Rush Line. They would love to take it to Hugo, frankly. But to qualify for the federal money, the federal Department of Transportation has a formula you have to meet. So there is some hope in this process. You have to have ridership, you have to have density, you have to have enough people in a half-mile radius of every stop to draw from. So there is a written formula in the law that you have to meet in order to make the project work. So they had to, if you go to Hugo, the cost per mile, the cost per foot or inch, as Tim was talking about earlier, doesn't work because there's not the density there yet. Same with Forest Lake. So you got distance where you got to build the road, you got to put things up, you got to spend a lot of money, but you don't have the people. So I don't believe it works in White Bear Lake. Honestly, I don't believe the ridership numbers are there to justify, you know, because you look at the, I gotta get my bearings right. You gotta look at the right north, okay, the west side of Highway 61, like Cedar, or even by Whitaker, where we were talking about the other night. There's nothing there. I mean, there's nothing on the west side. There's lots of houses on the east side. It's really lousy bus stops because you're not even drawing from the other side of the street. There's nothing there. So in order to make the federal formulas work to get funding, they shoehorned in White Bear. They love downtown White Bear. They love White Bear because there's so much density. So that makes the formula work, I think, barely or maybe not at all to do it. So that's why people say, why don't they go to Hugo and end it there? Well, it doesn't work. They couldn't apply for federal money or Forest Lake or so they hope that future growth and then they could do it later. So they still want to do it to Rush City, but that's why it's not doing it. That's why when people say, well, why don't they just stop it at Cedar? Well, then the whole formula falls apart. The project doesn't work. You know, why don't they stop it at Whitaker? Well, it's shoehorned in from you know the depot to downtown White Bear. Another question?
Let me just take another take on that, and I think Bill is spot on. That's absolutely correct. I mean, the way that we view it is that it's somewhat speculation without knowing all the nuances of that formula. But they needed to have the population of White Bear Lake part of the rush line, or they wouldn't be eligible for funding. So, because we asked Ramsey County, how many people are gonna get on that stop in White Bear Lake? What's the ridership number? You know what they said? They said, we don't know. They said, we don't have to have that number to apply for this project. They don't know. They don't know. So I'm sorry to be so editorialized about that. That is why we think that they included White Bear Lake. They needed the population number, not because we as riders said we want a bus.
The question I have is Forest Lake, are they still in on the meetings? Because I was told yesterday by a candidate that they are.
Not that we're aware of. I mean, the policy advisory committee, which we've been watching and attending online, etc. There were no representatives from Forest Lake, I believe, as part of that policy advisory committee. That policy advisory committee is not operating anymore. Okay. I don't think so.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So the one reason I came to this meeting.
You want to minutes?
Let's get back to 4 minutes.
Yeah. For you folks to speak.
Hi, my name is Bob Magus, and I've lived here 74 years. My great grand. Did you hear any of that? Okay, my name is Bob Magus, and I've lived here 74 years. I'm from fourth generation White Bear Lake. My great grandfather owned the White Front. In case you haven't been here long enough, the White Front is now Houlihan's. It's a White Front for 74 years. Okay, my grandfather grew up above the bar. I qualify as a Beartown guy. Okay. There's no reason for this thing. It makes boondoggles look bad. What I want to know, and nobody's answered that, I've asked it 10 times since I've come here, is how do we as citizens rise up and stop this thing in its tracks? I have no idea. These politicians, I emailed my ward member, didn't bother to respond. We've got a bunch of politicians at bay here. What do we do to stop this? Avoiding the politicians, because they're not going to do it. It's obvious. What do we do?
That's our close. Maybe what are we going to do to stop this? Maybe we'll try to answer that at the end. I mean, we hope to send you away with some message on that.
Camelback said that the feds, if the feds don't give us the money, or us, whoever, that council the money, this thing is dead. So rather than have 12,000 signatures, maybe we need 20,000. Maybe we need a bunch of people in this room to get out with clipboards and go to your neighborhood and get signatures.
So he did set up what we're going to talk about at the close after everybody's done talking. We do have action items that we are going to encourage the folks to do. And yeah, maybe we do need 20,000 signatures. And we are pursuing many angles, many leverage points, if you will. So we don't really get our full strategy yet, but we are pursuing all the way up to the FDA to look for where we can find those boxes that need to be checked and stop them from being checked. Okay? We have very deliberate tactics that we are pursuing across the board at every level. And this is one of the key levels, if not the most important level, is get the word out to you folks and mobilize you folks to write and contact your elected officials. So, good point, but okay, let's keep going.
I'm Fran Canopy from White Bear Township. I'm Fran Canopy from White Bear Township, and I've been to a few meetings, but I just wanted to remind everybody that Victoria Reinhardt is our current, or one of our current Ramsey County Commissioners. Nicole Fredlin is the other one. But Victoria is got her eyes on the Met Council. I'd get her now before she gets there. Please contact her, talk to her. And that's my basic message. And then I do have a question. There is a November 23rd meeting. I'll have Bill Walsh define it for me. It's something that the White Bear Council will decide, I think, approval of the rush line on November 23rd. But anybody who's elected, all the Rams, or the White Bear City Council, and who are the other people? The mayor candidates don't go into office after the November 2nd election until January. So I'm wondering if we can change that date. Bill will have to address that on that November 23rd date to after the new year.
Okay, one minute on that. So on November 23rd, you're correct, our second meeting in November, we're going to take a municipal consent vote on the line, on Rush Line. I've been complaining along this process that we kind of put the cart before the horse. We choose the route, we choose where the stations are going to go, we choose, the Whitaker Street thing we did the other day, all micro decisions instead of the discussion of the big plan. Do we want it or not? I used to joke that we pick out the wallpaper in the bathrooms at the driver station, but we don't decide do we want this or not. So I've been asking for that for a long time. The mayor said, yes, we'll do it. She scheduled it for, we decided as a group kind of, November 23rd, we would have a municipal consent vote on the project, just the whole project, not a small decision, a big project. Now, the frustrating part is, in state law, if it was a light rail transit line, the law would require municipal consent votes of all the communities along the line, and positive municipal consent votes. With bus rapid transit, the law does not require a municipal consent vote. So it's not something that it doesn't mean if we vote to vote no on municipal consent, that the project's going to come to a screeching halt. But it is the vehicle that, at least in the city council, we can use to have the community. I want to have this community-wide conversation, which we're having tonight. I'm really thankful for you all being here. And then we'll vote on the 23rd. Does White Bear Lake want to do it or not? And if that vote fails, if municipal consent, we don't give a municipal consent, it doesn't kill the project, but I think it sends a very strong, specific, voted on, official message that White Bear Lake is no. Gem Lake has already voted no. So there's Vadnais Heights, there's the township, there's other cities that could do it as well. That starts to send that message in an official way that we are against it. So that vote's coming. I'm glad you brought it up. I forgot to mention that. But again, it's not going to stop the project. What the federal government cares about is who funds the project. So as long as the Met Council's in for their local funding share, they're good. They don't care necessarily that White Bear Lake, as a town said no, because we're not funding it directly. Taxpayer dollars are funding it, and there's some other things, but that's the vote on the 23rd.
Thanks for clarifying that, because I thought maybe we would switch that date.
Hello everybody, my name is John Ficcanetti, and I am running for your White Bear Lake School Board. Just for clarification purposes, it's F as in Frank, I, C, C, A, D as in David, E, N, T, I. I'm thinking about this rush line, which I oppose, but what comes to mind to me is I'm hearing the number 89 buses back and forth to White Bear Lake. That means we need 89 drivers. Anybody who's watching the news today, what can we not find? Bus drivers. We have children stranded in Minneapolis and St. Paul, Stillwater, fighting back and forth with their bus provider because they cannot find people to drive these buses. So we have hope. If this thing goes through, maybe they won't be able to find school bus drivers to get 89 buses back and forth. But still, the bigger concern is how about we focus on getting these kids to school before we come up here to White Bear and throw 89 buses that we're not going to have drivers for. Let's focus on that first. And let's also focus November 2nd on voting for John Ficcanetti for White Bear Lake School Board. Thank you very much.
We've been hijacked. Well, he gets 4 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Diana Laundrie from Maplewood, and my main focus in this whole issue is to save the Bruce Vento Trail. But once I got started on this issue to save the Bruce Vento Trail, I realized the impact that this project has on White Bear Lake.
And so now I'm in it for 2 reasons. Can you imagine that? It's a twofer. Now, our motto is, it's not too late. Because one of the things we heard at the last city council meeting was Councilmember Dan Jones saying, it's too late. Councilmember Dan Jones, it's not too late. It's not too late. It's only at the 15% development stage. 15%. Now, the Bruce Vento Trail is an ecological greenway. And in the comprehensive plan of Maplewood, the time before the current one, it was actually designated as a greenway, a dedicated greenway to connect the Phelan chain of lakes with the other chain of lakes, the Casey chain of lakes and the Keller chain of lakes, because that is a safe corridor for wildlife to travel so that they are not on the transportation corridor where all of our cars are. And of course, once we put those buses and the concrete freeway through the woods, if you've ever been on the trail, once the sun is down, you know how dark it is. Those buses are not going to see the wildlife that are used to being on that trail. They will not see them. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that it is so important to watch carefully at what's going on in your respective communities at your local city council meetings. Because oftentimes little things happen that if you're not watching, you don't realize are stepping stones to the next step, the next step, and the next step. Here's a good example. In the last revision of the comprehensive plan for Maplewood, in the Gladstone area, which has a history of being single-family residential neighborhood, they changed the density to 56 units per acre. 56 units per acre. Now, they justified that at their little closed comprehensive plan planning meetings by saying that they needed to do that to fortify and support the investment of Ramsey County in the rush line. Not because Maplewood needed 56 units per acre, not because we have the expectation that there's going to be that many people there's going to be jobs for them, and it's going to be, a vibrant community. No, it was done to support what Ramsey County has on paper. And so the people of Maplewood don't even know that that was done to their neighborhood because it wasn't ever opened up to them to know. Because all the meetings about changes to the comprehensive plan were never cable cast, were never put on YouTube, were never put out for the public to view like the regular city council meetings. Thank you. It's not too late.
That'll be good enough, right? Can you guys hear me? So, first off, give yourselves a round of applause for actually being here and being engaged, because this is huge, guys. This is huge. That's where it starts. And it starts with leadership. That's been my entire frustration with all of this, is leadership. We have Bill Walsh here, who we need to give another round of applause. I'm sorry, that's too high. But I saw a row of empty chairs right over there earlier when every single other one was filled. Those empty chairs were reserved for your elected officials. They weren't here. Now, one thing that I would expect out of Heidi, out of Dan, and out of Bill, is if there was an issue that was brought to them that they maybe did or did not support, they would be here regardless because it matters to them, because they are the voice for their constituents, not the other way around. They need to be the voice of their constituents. So it really would be a kind of comical issue, the entire rush line, if we were to look at it from a 30,000-foot view. They told us that an $80,000 pedestrian crosswalk could be saved via nearly $500 million. That doesn't make any sense, folks. It's never made any sense. They've done this with zero transparency, with zero accountability, and after you guys noticed just how ridiculous and irrational this entire idea was, they told you that they were mad at you for noticing. That is not leadership, folks. And to answer a gentleman's question just over here earlier, he asked, what can we do about this? And I think the number one thing that bad leaders rely on to continue this is a short memory. They rely on a short memory. Now, good for us, we have 2 weeks until we get to go and vote for the people who can be our voices, for the Heidi Hughes of the world, for the Dan Lewis Smiths of the world. Bill, you're not on the ticket this time, but be there for that too. Let's send the right people who will be your voice, who will listen, and who will be in those chairs when it matters most. That's what we have to do to start this thing. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Again, as a number of folks have said, we really appreciate everybody coming out, and this is a good example of town hall democracy in action. Anybody else? Speak.
Did somebody do a count of how many people are here?
I asked Darwin back there, he's my engineer guy. You gonna count, folks? 150 checked in, but not everybody signed in, okay?
200 chairs on the floor.
Yeah, so at least 200 people are sitting down.
200 chairs out.
You want to use mic? Yeah, please do.
My name is Kevin Berglund of Maplewood. First of all, I want to thank the organizers for having this forum. This is a genuine and authentic forum. And I caught it on Facebook, so I want to thank you for showing this live. And I look forward to looking at the replay. I think that, and I've been following this closely, I've been to some of their meetings, so they had a policy advisory committee meeting, and Chair Emerson, the word that I would describe, her conduct was disrespectful. I tried to give comments on that, and Chair Emerson would often interrupt, would dismiss your comments, and although she said that they would be responding, that would be Andy Gitzloff, the one who is the person who's running it for Ramsey County. Although attending numerous of the policy advisory committee meetings, he didn't respond once. And after the meetings, you couldn't even talk with him because he ran off immediately. All I see from my experience, my personal experience, was Miss Emerson and Andy Gitzloff. They ran the whole thing in a sense of privilege, entitlement, as some person said, non-transparency. None of their meetings were recorded, although I asked them to be recorded, video or audio, and the minutes did not, the slight minutes they sometimes add did not reflect what actually occurred. This whole thing has pretty much been ran in a non-transparent, secretive fashion. There's another, even more important committee called their Technical Advisory Committee, and that's the Ramsey County officials and Maplewood officials and other officials of White Bear Lake, I believe, that talk about the planning, and those have been completely in secret. There's no agendas, there's no indication when the time is occurring. They're the ones that are actually making all the plans. All I've seen in this whole process is a process that has been completely set up. Now, I think we have to thank these people because these are, to the best of my knowledge, all volunteers. Ramsey County has used all kinds of high-paid consultants and all their staff, spending millions of dollars on this, while residents have not had one authentic, genuine time to express their opinions. I attend some of those pop-up meetings they've had in different places, and virtually everyone who came to those listed the problems and were against this, and they were ignored and they were dismissed. All I've seen has been disrespect on part of the people, the public officials, and the elected officials. So it's no surprise to me that they're not here tonight. Now, I would call their tactics and their strategies to ramrod and push this through as very nefarious, and I think they've been working on this for years, and I'm actually surprised they allowed Bill Walsh to be elected, because from my sense, is they've really worked against people who've been opposing it to be elected to these positions. For example, I know that in the Maplewood case, they just ran a retreat, which I attended part of it, day-long retreat, and at that retreat, there was 2 new council members on there, Rebecca Cave and Nikki Valenciano, and both of those, the consultant they brought in from Chicago, all they could do was try to shame those 2 members by saying, you know, we need to circle the wagons and we have to be on the same page, and nobody gets to speak unless you're going with the government line, and it's best to push it to the city manager if anybody calls you. So I know that takes a certain bravery and courage on Bill Walsh's part to actually stand up and give his opinion, when I'm sure people like Chair or Mayor Emerson is very frustrated with him, and she is planning to do everything she can to harm him. Again, I just want to thank everybody for their courage and for their willingness to stand on the front line of this, because, as you know, it's going to be a complete decimation of that Bruce Fennell Trail. Tens of thousands of trees are just going to be clear cut. They're going to bring the bulldozers in, and they're going to bring tens of thousands of tons of concrete in. Thank you again.
Okay, last call, speakers. Okay, I'll just say a few things and I'll turn it back to Bill to wrap it up. I just want to touch on a couple points people made towards the end. What can we do? What are we doing? So this is where we're headed. We call it our ask, and this is substantial, and we think it's well thought out. And I want to mention first, before I get too far along, part of the biggest reason we are doing this is because folks like you folks in all the communities, have come up to us and grabbed us by the arm and pulled our shirt and said, "You've got to stop this. Please help us. It doesn't fit. Without this type of concern, we wouldn't be able to do this." And as far as kind of folks that are really leading this and doing this, I will do a shout out to, there's another 18 folks who are part of our organizing committee who are scattered around the room, who are what I call the doers. So they are the ones who are really helping make all this happen, okay? So if I could, if you give me applause for all those folks doing all this hard work, for all volunteers. So with that said, what are we doing? Where do we go from here? We want to mobilize. We want to give people action items. That's what we've been encouraging for the 5 months since we started. So you can sign a petition as you leave, collect the emails. We do action alerts. We keep people updated. We want to communicate with folks. Again, we've got 1,300 people who have signed and given us emails. You can purchase signs or take signs. You can sign up to get a sign. You can volunteer for us. You can email. You can call your elected officials. Do not let up on that. And these are our consistent messages. And as far as what else we are doing, just as a sample without giving away all of our tactics, but we're working at the local elected level. Every city, we are contacting the elected officials. We're contacting the county folks, and we're contacting the Met Council folks. We've met with Roger Chamberlain on a couple of occasions, spent an hour and a half talking to him about our position. He loves our position. He's going to support us at the legislature. He's doing some behind-the-scenes work at the legislative level. I've talked to Amy Loucks camp. I'm meeting with her next week. A number of us have met with other business leaders, other groups in this entire corridor area. We are going to be working with the FTA, determining how we can find the right levers there at the FTA level. So what we'd ask is, what we need is you folks to write letters, call, be active, let your voices be heard, because it's not done. I've been in the government for 25 plus years on both sides as an employee and as a consultant to state, local, and federal level governments, and it's amazing the power of the voice of you folks. Okay? So, yeah, question.
Could you provide this group and anybody else that's in touch with this, a list of names, emails, and phone numbers of the various people that we've contacted?
Sure. Great, I could have paid you $5 to come over there, because we've got the flyer right over there. Somebody hold it up. The question was, could we provide a list of every elected official, their email, and their phone number for every community along the corridor? We've got it right over there. Darwin's holding it up. We have 100 copies of it. We call it our flyer. Grab it. Yep, some of you have it. We hand those out at Market Fest. Use it. Call them, contact them, tell them your views of this, and that you oppose the rush line.
It's also on the website?
Oh, yeah, yep. Our website is listed down there. Our Facebook page is listed down there. We've got a great online presence. Also, you are now part of our network. So expand this view with others in your network. Talk to your neighbors. We still get surprised at how many people say, oh, I didn't realize it was 89 buses. I didn't realize it was $454 million. We need to still get the word out, so you people can help do that now. Okay, any other quick questions? Then I'll turn it to Bill. Yep.
So what's the contact like at the federal level?
I'm sorry?
What's the contact like? Where do we go at the federal level?
What's the like at the contact? What's the contact at the federal level? You know, we've got some names at the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration. If you think the Red Council is big, FTA is a beast, okay? So we've made some outreach to those folks. We're trying to get meetings now. We are also working with Tom Emmer's office for him to identify the right contacts, because we're trying to be careful not to just spin our wheels or burn a lot of time and energy not hitting the right spot. So we're working hard to find out the right contacts at FDA. That's one of our tracks.
Are you talking to Betty?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking to Betty?
Oh, yeah, she's on our list. I don't recall if we've had contact with her yet, but she's on our list to contact.
The other thing I'd just like to point out is this environmental angle might be a really good one. The young lady over there talked about the environmental designation that Maplewood has already given for this. It is on the migratory flyway for birds, and it could be, if there's no environmental assessment, that perhaps that needs to be done. And that might be another,
Yeah.
Betty would be supporting that.
Yeah. So Betty's on our list. I don't recall if we've had direct contact, but as far as environmental assessment, that was the first submittal for the project to the FDA, was the environmental assessment. 135 pages. They've got mitigation plans for just about everything that's come up, and that's their standard responses. We'll have a mitigation plan for that. So they've dealt with things like that, all the way from environmental, migratory birds to turtles to other aspects of the environment. And almost every response, if there's an issue, we'll have a mitigation plan. So, but we followed that track and pursued that also. Yep.
Do we need to mobilize a trip to go to Washington, D.C. to talk to these decision makers? I mean, the people in the FTA,
So that absolutely is a possibility, because again, I'm sorry. Do we need to mobilize and think about going to Washington, D.C. to stand in front of the FTA folks? That's a possibility. There's no question about it, because when we think about action items, this was a key action item for us here. Some of you may have received our action email alert. We also envision that at some point we hope to have go to a hearing or presence in front of that council. We'd like to get in front of Ramsey County. We also are pursuing the idea, just recently connected with folks down in St. Paul. And can we get a public hearing in front of the Transportation Committee at the legislature? So what we want to do there is fill the room and have folks like you stand up and speak like you did today. So consider this the preview. This is a test run of what we want to maybe call you folks to say, okay, here's the next opportunity for you to stand up in front of the elected folks and make a difference. And, yeah, we'd like to pursue that concept of no bill, but we think first at least just pause. So I think we're trying to give the elected folks an option that is palatable for them. I know that may seem a little soft, but I've been in this for a long time. We want to be able to have them say, okay, let's pause first. That buys us a lot. Yeah. Yes, you can make copies of that.
Yep, you need to pass it on to anybody you know.
Okay.
I have a question for Bill, because I get kind of confused on that.
I have a question in regards to municipal consent because there's some confusion in my mind on how that works. Is it, 2 people oppose it, the rest on the city council approve it, municipal consent? What's the 90-day if nobody approves it? How does that work?
Well, you're mixing up issues. We did a municipal consent vote on the DOT request for this project the other day. And that's where the 90 days comes in, and we actually approved it, right? So that's good. They got what they needed. The municipal consent vote on November 23rd is different, same language, but a different vote. It will be a resolution for municipal consent for the project, and it'll be an up and down vote, majority rules. So we'll give them municipal consent or not. And like I said earlier, it's not going to stop the project in its tracks, but we're going to take that vote officially anyway. So. All right, we can wrap up. I don't have much to say except thank you. I really appreciate what I heard tonight. I really appreciate the respectfulness of the comments. I love this town. I love Kellerman's. Thanks again to Kellerman's. At the end of the day, I think everybody loves the town. Everybody shares what's best for this town. People are for and against the project, so we'll just continue moving forward. And like Dana said, don't give up. Thanks a lot for coming. We're going to pass that back now. If you can give some financial help, that'd be great too.
Donations make this all happen. If you want a sign,
If any of you folks are struggling getting up the stairs and need to take an elevator to get back down to the